Leslie, and I'm so happy to be here, and I thank Leslie and Melissa for having me back again. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, excellent. So, again, my name is Aileen Zei, and I'm the program manager, so my job really is to be out in the community like I am today, helping to raise awareness about Alzheimer's, but also we have a new initiative on brain health. So this ties in really well with what we're trying to do in urging people to take care of their brains. So we want to make sure that you kind of are on this exploration with us and learning how to live a healthier life and maybe some lifestyle changes that we can all make. So the brain needs to be taken care of just like the rest of our body, and that's not been really a focus for a lot of years. So we want to make sure that we're not only taking care of our body, but our brain also. So, and that is important at all ages. And it's never too early or too late to start taking care of our brain. So this program is going to focus on some science-based research and then just some general knowledge that we want to pass along to you. So we encourage you, after learning all this information, to talk to your healthcare provider on what may be some changes that they would suggest and incorporate those as you go. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So we hope that by the end of today's program, you'll be able to explore and explain how taking care of our brain is important now and throughout your entire life. Recognize the actions and the habits that can help protect and improve brain health, and make a plan for yourself to successfully use these tips. And we'll talk about how to build those habits into your daily life. So to make this plan, we're going to walk through what we call our action plan, and we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit later on how to use that plan as you move along. So our conversation today will be centered around the Alzheimer's Association's 10 healthy habits for your brain. So some of these may already be part of your daily life, and others, like managing certain health conditions, are influenced by those habits. And many of these brain healthy habits are connected. So improving one area may also help to improve another area. So for example, we know that healthy eating can help control blood pressure and diabetes. So it's kind of serving a lot of purposes. So take a moment here to recognize which of these habits are already a part of your regular day and where there might be some room for improvement. So we know that these habits and health conditions affect the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. And now we have evidence that doing something about them can really have a positive effect on our brain health. So the U.S. Pointer study, which is a recent clinical trial that the Alzheimer's Association participated in, presented some results, and this was released last summer, in the summer of 2025, and it showed that a structured, healthy lifestyle program combining exercise, nutrition, cognitive engagement, and health monitoring can meaningfully protect brain health. So this was a 2-year study. A lot of times what they'll have is a controlled and an uncontrolled group. So we had, it had randomized controlled clinical trial that tested 2 different lifestyle interventions in a large, diverse population of older adults at risk for cognitive decline and dementia. And what showed is that all of the things that we had thought and we had talked about were actually true. So what ended up happening is that the people at the end of the trial, when they were tested, they showed 2 years younger on their brain scales than originally marked. So this is a very important study that underscores the message that healthy behaviors have a powerful impact on our brain health. So we're going to talk about more of what we learned from this study and the elements that of that structured healthy lifestyle program, and we're going to talk about those, how you can incorporate those into your life. So before we talk about how to help protect our brain health, let's learn a little bit about how the brain works and why taking care of our brain really matters. So the term brain health can refer to a wide range of functions, including memory, thinking, and emotional well-being, and even sensory and motor functions. So while these areas are all important and closely connected, in this program we're going to focus specifically on ways to help protect how we think, how we learn, and how we remember. So the brain is the control center of the body. Think about how the brain makes everything in our body work. And so the neurons that are in our brain are essential to all of our thinking and our talking and our walking. There are approximately 100 billion neurons in the brain, and they form branches. And these branches help to connect to nerve cells, and that's what makes our brain work. So signals traveling from these neurons form the basis of our memories, our thoughts, and our feelings. So some diseases like Alzheimer's affects the brain and actually destroys the nerve cells, and these cause the brain to actually shrink. So when autopsies are done of people who have had Alzheimer's, the brain is smaller than someone who has not had Alzheimer's. So most individuals living with dementia are 65 years and older, but brain changes can start actually about 20 years prior, before symptoms of dementia are even experienced. So risk to our brain health starts even younger than age 65. So as I said before, it's never too early and never too late to start taking care of our brain. So our focus today is on brain health, but I want to give you some real, just a brief background information on dementia so that we're all on the same page. And I usually start out in many of my presentations by talking about what's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, because those words are used interchangeably quite often. So we want to make sure everybody understands that dementia is an overall umbrella term for changes in memory, thinking, and behavior. Alzheimer's happens to be one type of dementia. So when you think about that umbrella, think about some different types of dementia coming down underneath, and Alzheimer's is one type. It happens to be the most common type of dementia. So cognitive decline refers to changes in memory, thinking, and or reasoning that are worsening over time. So just as with our physical abilities, some cognitive decline often comes with aging. So age is the greatest risk factor for this decline. So MCI, or mild cognitive impairment, is an early stage of memory loss or another cognitive ability loss. And these changes can happen. What we want people to make sure that they know is that even if you're given a diagnosis of MCI, which does come with aging sometimes, it does not guarantee that you're going to have Alzheimer's. So that's one thing that we always like to make clear. And dementia is not a normal part of aging, so it's going to be something totally separate. So again, dementia is that loss of memory and other thinking abilities that are severe enough to interfere with your daily life. So Alzheimer's disease, as I mentioned, is the most common type of dementia, and it's caused by damage to the nerve cells in the brain, and it is progressive and ultimately a fatal brain disease. There are several other diseases that cause changes in the brain leading to dementia, and those we'll talk about some other day. So it's important to note that our hearts and brains are closely connected. And so what we usually say is what's good for the heart, when you're taking care of your heart, it's also taking care of your brain. So much of this connection is because each time your heart beats, 20 to 25% of the blood that pumps through your heart then goes to your brain. So this oxygen and other elements that are delivered to the brain help to actually feed it. That's what our brain lives on. So because of this connection, actions that we take to take care of our heart also takes care of our brain. So what we always want to make sure people realize is that anything that's good for your heart is good for your brain too. So all of those things, if you have a heart condition, that's kind of important to know. All right, so let's shift back to talking about brain health, and we can hear from a few people on this slide. Let's see if it, You might not get that video to work. We can skip over that if you want. Yeah. So go ahead and skip to the next slide. So based on everything that we talked about so far, what do you think is the best time to start thinking about your brain health? Right now, right? So, and the greatest known risk for Alzheimer's, again, is age. So we don't want to delay in taking care of our brain. So even though having a family history of dementia puts people at a higher risk, research shows that with brain healthy habits, we can reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's and protect ourselves from cognitive decline. So healthier living has a positive effect on brain health for everyone. So let's talk a little bit more about actions that you can take. So we're going to first talk about health conditions that are connected to brain health. Smoking is included here because it does affect the brain. So first of all, blood pressure. So over time, high blood pressure can damage the blood vessels, and this can affect that blood flow. Remember, we want 20 to 25% of the blood that comes from our heart to go to our brain. So if we have any type of vascular disease or vascular problems, that is going to slow that blood from going to the brain. So high blood pressure is a common condition. Sometimes you might see symptoms, sometimes you might not, so you want to make sure that you're getting checked. So the US guideline for blood pressure is less than 130/80. So definitely talk to your doctor, see what your reading is. And sometimes changes to physical activity, healthy eating, and sleep can help us improve our blood pressure. So medications, if necessary, can be very effective also at controlling it. The next one is managing diabetes. So high blood sugar or insulin can harm the brain. There's a lot of studies out there right now that are connecting it. And diabetes raises the risk of heart disease and stroke also. So we want to make sure that we're watching our glucose numbers and making sure that that inflammation is not going to affect our health. So we want to make sure that you're talking to your healthcare professional about that also. And for both preventing and controlling diabetes, medications and increasing healthy eating and exercise can be effective. So these are the same things that are good for your blood pressure too. The next one is weight. So midlife obesity increases the risk for cognitive decline and possibly dementia. So maintaining a healthy weight earlier in our lives and throughout adulthood is very important. Weight can become a complex issue, and we want to make sure that we're talking to our healthcare professional about that and what's the best way to control that. And smoking. So cigarette smoking can actually shrink the part of the brain that deals with memory and thinking. So it can also contribute to high blood pressure and diabetes. So as we discussed, those are things that we need to keep track of. So the good news is that for people who stop smoking, the risk of cognitive decline does drop over time back to the levels similar to those of non-smokers. So it's never too late to stop smoking. And again, there's many different resources for helping you with that, so talk to your doctor about ways that you can get some help with that. So we want to talk about what actions we can take. So there are 3 habits that can benefit these conditions: our brain health and our overall health. So the first one is being physically active. Movement can get your heart pumping. Aerobic or cardio exercise improves our brain function by increasing blood and oxygen flow. And physical activity also does improve circulation and those connections to the brain cells, helping to preserve the brain cells. As we know, once those brain cells die off, they don't come back. So we want to make sure that we're preserving the brain cells as best we can. The next one would be eating right, or eating healthy, as we like to say. So balanced nutrition, or getting a variety of nutrients that we need across all of the food groups, is important for cognitive function. So certain diets, such as the MIND diet, some of your doctors may have given you, my doctor gave me a little handout one day on that. Those provide optimal nutrition for brain health And those include things like leafy greens, nuts, whole grains, and healthy oils. So the things like butter is not quite on the mind diet as we've all grown up with. So the last one being sleeping well. And I know that's a real challenge for a lot of us. I myself struggle with it all the time. And but quality sleep really does include those periods of deep sleep. And that's what we want to see, is when we can fall into that deep sleep. Experts think that this allows for the process of what they call washing away buildup of proteins in the brain that can kind of clump together and cause issues with our brain health. So not getting enough sleep does leave us feeling tired and can make it harder to make healthy choices too, because sometimes, it's a lot of work to put together a healthy meal. And if we're tired, we might not choose to put in that work. So conditions such as insomnia or sleep apnea can be connected with memory and thinking problems. And that sleep apnea kind of goes back into the idea of making sure that our brain is getting enough oxygen. So we want to make sure that if we do have sleep apnea, it's being looked at by the doctor, and if a CPAP or something like that is needed. So talk with your healthcare provider if you are having a hard time sleeping. So before we take a closer look at some of the tips that can help us with these habits, we know that change can be hard, and many of us want to live healthier lifestyles, but it's hard, to make that change. So we might want to take a look at who might be able to help us. Is there a buddy that could kind of help you go for walks together every day? Or is there someone that really loves to cook and knows some great recipes on, things that we can eat that are more healthy? So kind of tying into other resources is a great way to help yourself. So as we talked about, exercise can have many benefits for the brain. And we want to think about what types of exercises can we do. We don't have to necessarily join a gym or do anything like that. 30 to 35 minutes of sort of fast-paced walking 4 times a week. That could be a good solution. Then 15 to 20 minutes of strength training. That's an important thing to do also, is the strength training. Perhaps the lifting of small weights and things like that. And 10 to 15 minutes of stretching and balance exercises. I know a lot of places will have balance type classes, and those are great because balance is really important. We don't want to have any falls, and those can be really helpful. Exercise is one of the best things that we can actually do for our brain, but it can feel hard and overwhelming to think about adding it to our daily life. So what can we do? First, focus on just getting your body moving. Every 15 minutes, kind of get up from your chair, walk around a little bit. Exercise does not mean having to go to the gym, as I mentioned, but just adding more movement into your day is really important. Maybe if you go somewhere and you're driven somewhere, maybe park a little bit farther away. Taking the steps instead of taking an elevator, things like that. So think about ways that you can make these changes. Again, ask a friend to go for a walk. It's much more fun to be able to go with a friend. Pickleball is all the rage, as we know, so all those types of things can really be helpful. So a little bit more about healthy eating. I mentioned the MIND diet. Again, those are some suggestions up on the screen here about green leafy vegetables, whole grains. Berries are very good as an antioxidant. Poultry instead of red meat is preferred. Fish is suggested at least 1 serving a week. And nuts, using olive oil instead of butter. And so again, limiting our red meats, our butter, our cheeses, fried foods, and sweets. So a brain healthy diet can be applied across different styles of healthy eating habits, including on the go, We know it's a little bit harder when you're traveling or something like that, but sometimes it means just making a little bit of extra effort, focusing on maybe some snacks of nuts and things like that instead of candies and sweets. Again, trying olive oil instead of butter. There are a lot of low sodium spices that are out on the market nowadays, so that makes things a little bit easier for us to get the spices without getting the sodium. So these are some options that you can do. Swapping out white rice for whole grain rice is another suggestion. But really trying to kind of think about things as you're shopping or eating that might be a healthier alternative. Many times we're asked about vitamins and supplements. I do a series of presentations with a neurologist back in McHenry County, and a lot of times people will ask him, you know, what about Prevagen? What about all of the, you know, supplements on the market? And what he'll say is, you know, I can't say if they work or they don't work. They're not FDA approved, so it's really up to you, you know, if that's something that you want to take. But when it comes to supplements and vitamins, again, they're not usually, you know, FDA approved. So it's a matter of, you know, consulting with your doctor, seeing if that's the best option for you. A lot of times they will say getting it from real food is better for you. So now I'm going to talk quickly about sleep. So to protect our brain health, we need to get good quality sleep regularly. We should aim for 7 to 9 hours a night, and I know that that is difficult. But quality sleep allows you to go through the whole sleep cycle, including that deep sleep that I mentioned, and it is valuable for our brain. It helps our brain rest while we're sleeping, and of course there might be noise and interruptions that are waking us up. So think about where you sleep. What can we do to make that a good sleeping environment? Do you like, you know, windows open? Do you like to have more blankets so that you're real warm, or do you like to sleep a little bit cooler? For us, we had to sadly kick our dog out of the room because he was snoring all the time, keeping me awake. So, you know, he has his dog bed in another room now. So think about ways that you can kind of make your sleeping environment conducive for better sleep, and you know, not having your phone on, the ringer on, and things like that might be helpful too. So some more tips for getting better sleep: avoid caffeine later in the day. They usually say, you know, after lunch, probably not the greatest idea to have caffeine. Being physically active during the day helps to promote your sleep, and minimize your naps. You know, if you can do just a 15-minute quick cat nap, that might be better for you. And also keeping a regular sleep schedule. Try to go to bed at the same time every day and get up at the same time. It does help your rhythm of sleep work a little bit better. In general, cooler temperatures do promote better sleep. Minimize noise and achieve the level of noise that you prefer. Some people sleep with like a sound machine on. Limit your use of like television and cell phones later in the day, because they say that that light is not good for sleeping. And finally, protect your sleep from disruptions. You know, some of us are waking up to use the restroom in the middle of the night, but maybe if you limit your water intake, your liquid intake in the evening, that might help too. So maybe kind of tonight when you go to bed, think about, is my bedroom, you know, a good environment for me to be sleeping? There's some changes that I can make. So in addition to healthy heart and brain habits, these are 3 more healthy habits specific to brain health. First, our brains benefit from being active and staying challenged. So maybe taking a class might be helpful. Researchers believe that it builds up a cognitive reserve, or a sort of bank that people can carry with them as they age. So more years of education have a positive effect on our brains, strengthening that cognitive reserve that can benefit us when, as we get older. And we're constantly learning things as children, so we need to kind of make sure that as older adults, we're also trying to learn things. Is there some subject that you've always wanted to learn about that you're now able to kind of research? Is there a new instrument that you've wanted to always play, or different music that you wanted to listen to, different things like that? So if we can kind of keep learning as we get older, that's going to be so beneficial for our brains. And cognitive engagement encourages blood flow to the brain, as we mentioned earlier, and that is going to be best to keep our brain healthy. And we're going to skip over this one too, because it's got a video.
What is cognitive engagement? Cognitive engagement is all about regularly making your brain work hard. There are lots of different activities that are good for keeping our brains active. This can be different for everyone. The key is that the activity needs to make you concentrate and solve problems. Hard is good.
Yeah, it's interesting, that same neurologist that I work with, people will say, well, if I do crossword puzzles every day, will that help my brain health? And what he says is, you're gonna get really good at crossword puzzles, but then it's not challenging your brain. So try to make sure that you're constantly kind of changing things up. You know, one day do a crossword puzzle, the next day do something different. So you're kind of really exercising your brain well. It's not to say that crossword puzzles are not good, but just, you know, not relying on that solely. And maybe go ahead and try like a strategy game, you know, Stratego or chess or any of those kind of games that you need to think of a strategy. Doing puzzles are great. Maybe try one that you've never done before. You know, so if you have a jigsaw puzzle that you've done before, try a new one. Learning a new language. There's some computer programs like Duolingo that allow you to learn a new language. Exploring a new hobby. You know, is there something that you've always wanted to try that you're thinking of? My husband's actually gonna start trying to make walking sticks out of old branches, you know, just as something different and new. Taking a class. There's always great opportunities to take classes and learn some new things. But again, try to find something that you've always been interested in. It's gonna be more fun for you to learn. And then let's go one more. So now we're on the final habit that we're going to talk about. As you might expect, our brains benefit from being protected from injury. So head injuries, including concussions, can affect many parts of the brain, including how we think and how we move, and our emotions. So they can also affect our future thinking and cognition. So while accidents, of course, can happen, we want to take action to protect our brains. So here's some everyday example. Make sure that everyone in the vehicle is wearing their seatbelt. Children are in appropriate car seats. Wear a helmet if you like to bike ride. Making sure those helmets meet the appropriate safety standards and fit correctly is important. Organize your living and workspaces to minimize the risk of falling. This is a very big issue. You know, throw rugs, any furniture that might be in your way of getting to the restroom in the middle of the night, you know, different things like that. Kind of look at your living space and think about how you can reduce your risk of falls. Not using ladders is something that we should all be thinking about. You know, when it comes to getting something from up high, ask someone else to get that for you. And if you do have a head injury, make sure that you get it checked out. It's important to get that checked out right when it happens, and talk to your healthcare provider about that. And here are some other areas of research that we're looking at when it comes to our brain health. Hearing and vision loss. There's a newer area of research and more studies are needed in this area. To date, some studies are suggesting that hearing and or vision loss may be associated with higher risk of dementia. So treating hearing or vision loss does benefit our overall health, and the effect on brain health is being researched at this point. The next would be air pollution. Some studies show that a link between particulate matter, or very small particles in the air, and possible increased risk of cognitive decline. So more research is being done in this area to identify the level and age of exposure that might cause the greatest risk. Some people may be at more risk based on where they live or where they work. Alcohol abuse also is being looked at. Excessive use of alcohol over time can lead to memory issues and possibly even a specific syndrome called Korsakoff syndrome. And this is a chronic memory disorder. The link is to the increased risk of cognitive decline and other forms of dementia is unclear at this time, but it is being researched, as I mentioned. And also stress. To date, there's been some evidence linking situational or occasional life stress, like moving or a family illness, to cognitive decline and dementia. So again, that's another area that's being looked at right now. Short-term stress may also affect our daily routines and our brain healthy habits. So we want to make sure that stress is not affecting how we're going through life. So managing stress can be important for brain health. And so moving on to our last section on building that action plan, we have 3 key takeaways. First one being brain healthy habits are for everyone. So remember, it's never too early or too late to establish these healthier habits. Nurture these healthy habits that you have and start some new ones. When you look at our builder page to see what you can incorporate that might be new. And then try to maintain these healthy habits as you go along. Number 2 would be the more healthy habits, the better. The more healthy habits that we have, the more that benefits our brain health. So try to include a variety of healthy habits. For example, if you can get enough physical exercise in your day, try focusing on getting maybe another hour of sleep each night or eating healthier snacks. So if you recall, participants in that US Pointer study, they saw the greater benefit on cognition when they combined all 4 of the healthy lifestyle elements of exercise, healthy diet, cognitive engagement, and health monitoring. And the third thing is basically stay consistent. Once you start something, keep at it. These need to be done on a regular basis. It's not going to do much good to just do it for a week and then drop it. So even though it might be a little bit hard at first, it'll really kind of become part of your everyday habits. And then we're going to kind of talk about how to set up for success. So we want to set a flexible goal. Set the type of goal that will work the best for you at the beginning, and try not to be too specific. If you want to just put your goal as eating more healthy snacks, then you can kind of add more specifics on as you work through it about what types of snacks that you've added. Including other people. Tell others about your goals for building healthy habits, and they might want to join you too. It's always more fun to do it along with a buddy. So support from others can also encourage your success, knowing that someone else will be checking up on you when we have to be accountable. That sometimes can make a difference. I know I used to go to an exercise class with a friend, and so we would call each other the morning of, and one of us would say, oh, I don't feel like it today. But the other one would say, no, we're going, So it did help, definitely. So find rewards that work. Some rewards might be helpful when it comes to things like, not losing money. If you're going to maybe do something that's going to make your life a little healthier, you're not going to spend as much on medical bills, perhaps. So then speaking positively, how you talk about your habits that you're building can really make a difference. Instead of complaining like, well, I don't get to eat, such and such anymore. But instead you could say, you know what, I tried a new vegetable that I'd never tried before, and I didn't know I liked it. So try to kind of put the positive spin on it, and then that'll help to achieve your goals a little bit better. And also keeping track. So kind of make a little chart of what you're doing, and then you can look back on it and say, oh, I started on this date, and look at this, I'm feeling better after 1 week or 2 weeks. Kind of go through And having it on paper, it really helps to track it. So next we're going to kind of talk about that healthy habit builder that we handed to you. And the goal is to really make a change that you want to make and a healthy habit that you want to build. So we're going to kind of look at the first box of the action plan, choose a habit that you want to focus on, and write it in on that action plan. And then in the second box, you're going to say, what's your goal? What change do you want to make? And start with something that's more, small and doable. And you'll have more success that way. So if you want to say, I'm going to, walk for 30 minutes 4 times a week, or do you want to just say, I'll walk more every week? Kind of, yourself. So, and then in the third box, that step on the action plan is to decide on the action that you'll take to achieve your goal, and what specific steps you will actually take to build that new habit. So a helpful tool to plan that action is called a habit loop. And a habit loop helps you build new habits into your routine and help to make them stick. So let's see if the next slide of the video works on the next one. Keep going. And one more. Okay.
Creating new habits can feel hard, but our brains are actually good at building routines. Using a habit loop, the process our brains use to build habits, can help make new habits stick. Here's how a habit loop works. There are 3 parts of a habit loop: the cue, the action, and the reward. First, identify a healthy habit you want to build. Now, identify something you already do regularly that can cue or nudge you to do the new action. We already use cues in our lives, but we might not be aware of it. People may plug their phone into a charger as soon as they get into their car, or take their shoes off after they walk into the house. One action triggers another. These cues naturally trigger the next action we want to remember, and it becomes automatic over time, so we don't even think about it. The second part is the action. Recognize the cue and attach the new action like we just talked about. The final part in the habit loop is the reward. You did it. Feeling good about the change you made and its benefits may be reward enough for you, or maybe you need a celebration. Habit loops can be used to help build lots of healthy habits. Attaching a new action to one you already do and then feeling rewarded is what the habit loop is all about.
Okay, so we're going to continue on with our action plan. So obstacles are part of the process. So if we look at the 4th and 5th boxes on our action plan, we can try to identify some potential barriers to meeting our goal and how we can overcome them. So what might keep you from meeting your goal and what might be a solution? Think about some of the tips that we talked about earlier. And for example, one obstacle might be the weather. If the weather isn't good for walking outside, then maybe I just shouldn't walk. Well, instead, we can reschedule if the weather is bad or find a place to walk indoors. And then finally, set a timeline. First, when will you start? You might want to be able to start today after you leave here. So starting as soon as possible while this is all fresh in your brain is really a great idea. So think about how often you're going to do this particular goal, and think about it. Is your goal on your new action plan set for a few times a week, every day? What is your schedule going to be? And then think about how you'll hold yourself accountable. Remember that tracking your actions can be helpful. So starting next week, we can pick 2 regular meetup days to walk with a friend after lunch or something like that. And keep track of your days, either on a piece of paper, on your phone, whatever works for you. And then, that's it. Take that home with you, go over your action plan, define those goals, make any adjustments, and get yourself set for starting building this new habit. Science does show that seeing our goals helps us actually stick with them. So keep your action plan in a place that you'll see it regularly, maybe up on your refrigerator, take it to a mirror or something like that, and kind of have it right in plain view for yourself.
The fact that you're thinking about ways to change your brain health and promote your own health is a step in the right direction.
The small changes are so important. They don't have to be radical, life-altering changes. Our own brain health is not only for ourselves, but it's really for our loved ones.
The things we do day to day, the things we can make decisions about that can be positive or negative for a healthy brain. And I think that's the kind of things we want to focus on, is what are the things we can do that we can control that begin to have an impact on our brain.
So you've really taken a great step by coming here today in regards to prioritizing your brain. So I want to give you all a hand for doing that. And it's very important that you're here today and to learn this information, pass it along to people who might be looking for the same information. This is kind of a synopsis again of the 10 healthy habits for your brain. So what can I do right now? Do I want to make sure that I'm looking at my blood pressure, I'm managing my blood sugars, maintaining that healthy weight, being smoke-free, just getting moving, as we said, just a little bit each day. Eating right, sleeping well, challenging your mind in some way or another. Try to take some classes. We all, as children, we were just like sponges. Our brain just absorbed everything, and we still need to do that. And again, protecting your head if you need to. So the Alzheimer's Association is here for you. If you have any questions, on your paperwork, there is our 800 number that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's there for you with any question that you have. Don't feel that it's a silly question. Just give a call in. We also have great information on our website about different research and things like that that's being done. All of this brain healthy habit information is on there too. We're starting a new initiative called Rethink Your Brain, and we're really concentrating a lot of our outreach on brain health. So there's lots of great resources. There's information for people who have been diagnosed to figure out their care plans and things like that. So feel free to always visit our website as you need to. So that's pretty much my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Who has a plan of what they're going to do today? Yes, your question.
What do you do if you're born without a brain?
Oh, so that could be a problem. Yeah. Are you thinking of someone in particular?
I've been called brainless so many times.
I don't believe that. No. And I think that, I think having a sense of humor is also a good thing. That's a good thing. So, because if we're all too serious, then, that's not fun either. So.
Brothers and sisters.
Oh, see, they can be abusive, those older siblings, can't they? My husband comes from a family of 12. So, he's number 8. It's just nuts. Yeah. So, I know. Yes, sir.
I've always heard that dark chocolate is good for your heart and your brain.
Well,
Do you agree with that?
everything in moderation, as they say.
What is moderation?
Moderation. Well, yeah, that's what you'd have to talk to your doctor about that. I know. No 10 candy bars a day. That probably isn't a good idea. But I do believe that the dark chocolate, if you had to compare the two, between milk chocolate and dark chocolate, is healthier, less sugar. Yeah.
So my beer and Snickers bar this afternoon would be a good
No. I'm thinking that's not on the slides there.
Careful, you're going to have a lot of people following you.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if I wrote this down right. Lewy body?
Lewy body disease?
What is that?
That's a type of dementia also. So there are many different types. Each one kind of comes with its own symptoms. So, you know, Leslie might have more details on the diagnosis of that one.
Hello, sir. So if you're curious specifically about Lewy body dementia, much like what Aileen mentioned, it's one type. And right now, I read a number the other day that there's 144 different types of dementia. Right? Isn't that wild? But we know the most about 9. And we know the most about Alzheimer's. But Lewy body, we're seeing quite a bit of. Lewy body as it presents, folks may hallucinate. A lot of people with Lewy body may actually be misdiagnosed with Parkinson's because it presents so differently. So it is important to know if you do have a type of dementia, what type, right? It's kind of like cancer, you know, yes, I have cancer, okay, what type, right? What does that affect? What can you experience or kind of predict based on the type that you have? Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for myself or Aileen? Yes?
Not a question, but when we talk about all these different things to get you motivated to become active, if you have a goal to do something special, that can make all the difference in the world. That a number of years ago, Rockford had a Senior Olympics program. And that was so much fun to go meet with all these people and compete in these activities. And there still are a number of these senior programs around the state. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a team of people go from this facility to an event that I brought? There's one here for Illinois Senior Olympics down in Champaign. Results go card Senior Olympics, that's in Peoria. And here's the old Rockford-area one. They give you the results at the end of the season. It's a marvelous program.
So the comment was about the wonderful Senior Olympics program specifically that they have in our area here in Peoria, if I heard that right. And she was mentioning how helpful it is to have something motivating or exciting to link your goals to, right? So for me, for example, I have a family reunion every year over July 4th. And my goal is to make sure that I'm ready, right? And I need to have something really good to talk about by then, because it's a big family affair. So a lot of times I do the same thing. I link some of my goals to something that's coming up, which keeps it a little bit more motivating and also keeps you accountable, right? Yeah, thank you for your comments. I'll be curious to read more about that program. Do you want to mention anything to that effect, Aileen?
Sure. So one of the other things that you might want to get involved in is we have our Walk to End Alzheimer's every year. We hold it at Sports Corps 1 out here in Rockford. I believe the date is September 26th, so we all have time to kind of prepare. And it's a short walk, it's not too long. But I agree with you that if you have, you know, maybe you want to fit into a certain dress for a wedding or something like that, you know, I mean, I think there's different ways of getting motivated, or if you know you have a doctor's appointment coming up and you think, oh, I don't want them yelling at me. So what am I going to do to make sure that I'm, you know, prepared for my doctor's appointment? Things like that. So I think that, you know, having something to motivate you is really important. So, yes?
How would one know who to donate to for Alzheimer's? I get numerous things in the mail constantly. I don't know which one is good.
Right. And, you know, there are a number of different Alzheimer's associations, you know, and they all do good things. You know, we of course would love if you donated to the Alzheimer's Association, but I think that there's a lot of good organizations too. So do a little research and see, you know, what types of things they're doing that you think, you know, might be beneficial, and maybe compare and contrast of, you know, different things that they're doing to kind of, you know, use your money in the best way. That's sure. Thank you for the question. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My wife has Alzheimer's, and I'm now a resident that's been on memory care. I've been here 3 years. I can't think of anything in her lifestyle that that you indicated
Mhm.
could contribute.
Sure.
But what did experience was migraines, which were life.
How interesting.
And that was not made.
Yeah.
After patients were able to
Right. And there is also a genetic disposition too. So she may have a genetic, propensity for Alzheimer's too. It's rather rare, but genetically she might carry the gene that's associated with it. So, it's hard to judge, and that's part of our research is trying to figure out how we can, stop it. That's for sure. Anybody else? Just me.
I've heard that children nowadays seems like they're starting to have Alzheimer's. How true is this?
Children?
Yes.
I have not heard that. I know that, we're seeing more of the early onset Alzheimer's in, 40-year-olds and stuff like that, but not children necessarily, I have not heard. So, but I think that, again, we're being better about diagnosing, we're getting, people are watching for these signs.
The same thing, like foods or activity.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And because I know of a lot of children who have no activity and they don't function well.
Sure.
Where they should be at the time.
It can lead to different health situations. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for having me today. I hope that you're walking away with some ideas on how you can kind of add some things into your lifestyle to build up these healthy habits. All right? Take care, everybody.
All right, well, I want to personally thank you, Aileen, for being here again and presenting to our residents and our guests here at Peterson Meadows. I am so glad that you all have come to these presentations and gained knowledge and expanded your understanding of Alzheimer's and dementia and how we help our minds thrive. So this was part 3 of our series, and we're going to take July off from having a presentation. And actually, the presentation, it's not going to be here. It is going to be to our Illinois association called Leading Age. And actually, Leslie and I are going to present to our professional peers on our brain health and well-being initiative. So I think that's pretty cool. Our communities are doing something different than other communities are. We're leading the charge in how we talk about brain health and well-being, and you all are part of that. So what a great and cool thing. So kudos to you all. We will start our presentations back up in August, and our plan for that is to kind of go 1 month over at Wesley Willows and 1 month over here, and stream in between. So you won't miss out on anything, and we hope that you'll come back for all of those. If you are a guest and you are visiting today, and you think that you might like to look at one of our apartments while you're here, Mr. Ryan Washabaugh, who is one of our senior living sales coordinators, he is over here, and he would be delighted to give you a little tour of Peterson Meadows while you're here. I don't know about you, but there's probably not many other days that are this nice and this lovely outside to visit and to see what our community looks like. So, thank you again to Leslie. Thank you to Aileen. Thank you to you all for coming, and we will look forward to keeping this going, huh? All right, thank you all so much.